10 years ago, Purdue men's basketball finished dead last in the Big Ten, only winning 5 games the whole year in conference. Attendance was down and things were not looking very good for Purdue men's basketball. But just 10 years later, Purdue would end up playing for a national title. So how did we get here? Well, it's a story of trials, tribulations, and lots of heartbreak. In the 2014 offseason, Purdue would go out and land 4 vital recruits who would help rebuild this program. Isaac Haas, Vincent Edwards, Dakota Mathis, and PJ Thompson. Along with this, Purdue had AJ Hammonds and Raphael Davis returning as juniors. John Octius would also transfer into Purdue and give us one of the most memorable IU vs Purdue moments in recent history. Purdue would finish tied 3rd in the Big Ten and even make it to the semifinals of the Big Ten tournament. Sadly, they lost to Wisconsin. Purdue would land a 9 seed in the NCAA tournament and end up facing 8th seed Cincinnati. Now, this team didn't have huge championship hopes, but they were pretty solid. They were young, and that's part of what made them fun. They had the best defensive player in the Big Ten in Raphael Davis, and they would end up fighting Cincinnati to the very end going into overtime, but they would lose 65-66. Despite this, Purdue basketball was in an upward trajectory. They had Caleb Swanigan and Ryan Klein coming in. They would end up going 26-9 and finish in a 4-way tie for 3rd place in the Big Ten, ending the year ranked 12th in the final AP poll. They would end up losing to number 2 Michigan State in the Big Ten tournament championship, but they would get a 5 seed in the NCAA tournament and end up being matched up against number 12 Little Rock. On paper, this should have been a pretty easy win for Purdue, but this would end up being the first of several March Madness heartbreaks for the Purdue Boilermakers, losing in double overtime. It was a very somber moment to see several great players end their Purdue career this way, but Purdue would end up bouncing back in the 2016-2017 season. They did only have one incoming freshman, a 3-star freshman out of Humble, Texas named Carson Edwards. Purdue would end up going 27-8, finishing 1st in the Big Ten and winning a regular season championship. They lost in the quarterfinals of the Big Ten tournament, but for once March would actually kind of work out for Purdue. They would beat Vermont in the first round and Iowa State in the second round of the NCAA tournament. This meant that Purdue would advance to their first Sweet 16 since 2010. However, they ended up getting blown out by number 3 ranked Kansas. The 2017-2018 season held lots of promise. Purdue did lose Caleb Swanigan, but had several freshmen coming in who would produce. Noel Eastern, Aaron Wheeler, Matt Harms, and Sasha Stefanovic were all in this class. They ended up finishing 2nd in the Big Ten and would end the year ranked 11th. Sadly, though, this year would see Purdue finish just short of several things. They fell just short of a Big Ten tournament championship by losing in the championship game by 9 points, and they would also lose in the Sweet 16 by 13 points to Texas Tech. But after all this time spent coming up just short, it would lead to an amazing 2018-2019 season. Eric Hunter and Trevion Williams would be brought in as freshmen, along with Carson Edwards having a great season. They would end up winning a Big Ten regular season title and finish the year ranked 13th. They would end up having a very disappointing loss to Minnesota in the Big Ten tournament, but they would end up earning a 3 seed in the NCAA tournament. Now, they blew by Old Dominion and 6 seed Villanova. Carson Edwards was playing outside of his mind during this Purdue run, as most of you probably know. So they would end up once again advancing to the Sweet 16 with a chance to go to their first Elite 8 since 2000. Now, they had to face Tennessee, who were ranked 6th, and were favorites to beat Purdue. But Purdue would finally break through and beat Tennessee in overtime to go to the Elite 8. I've talked about this game against Virginia multiple times on this channel, so I'm not going to go too in-depth on it, but despite a 42-point effort by Carson Edwards, Purdue would still lose by 5 points in overtime. And the next year, we really didn't bounce back. The COVID-shortened 2019-2020 season wasn't very good. They would lose Carson Edwards to the draft along with several other key players and would go just 16-15. Now on the bright side, they did get Mason Gillis in this recruiting class. The 2020 recruiting class had Ethan Morton, future top 5 draft pick Jaden Ivey, and 2-time National Player of the Year Zach Edey. The 2020-21 season would be another first-round loss to a low-seeded team. 13 seed North Texas would beat Purdue. Another loss that everyone could rub into every Purdue fan's face. It was almost picture perfect too. Trevion Williams crying as he left the game, and we didn't know if Trevion or Jaden Ivey would come back for another year. So we were kind of in a weird spot. Luckily, they would both end up returning for the next season, along with a recruiting class that had 2 4-stars, Trey Kaufman-Wren and Caleb First. So the 2021-2022 season for Purdue had to be the year that they finally got over the hump. You had Trevion Williams and Sasha Stefanovic in their final year, Jaden Ivey was probably going to the NBA after this season, and you had Eric Hunter as a senior. This team was really good. They finished the year ranked 10th. Now, they did only finish 3rd in the Big Ten and lost to Iowa in the Big Ten Tournament Championship, but that stuff didn't matter. We had been there, done that by this point. We were all focused on March Madness. As a 3 seed, we were at risk of being upset once again, but Purdue took care of business against Yale. Now, number 25 ranked Texas was a closer one, but still a 10-point win for the Boilermakers. Now it was on to the Sweet 16 against this year's Cinderella team, of course. St. Peter's, a 15 seed, who had beat Kentucky and Murray State to get here. Most Purdue fans were cautiously optimistic that we could end up winning this game. It was time to end the stereotype of Purdue losing to bottom 10 seeds in March. But we ended up losing by 3 points. And the picture of Sasha Stefanovic after this loss perfectly represented how all Purdue fans felt. Next year was looking like a rebuilding year. This was our shot and we blew it. In this exact moment, Sasha was just like the rest of us. All he could do was watch. But if the 2022 to 2023 season was supposed to be a rebuilding year, nobody told Purdue that. Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer were in this 2022 class, along with Camden Heide, but he would redshirt this year, so we're not going to talk about him a whole lot this year. But still, this year was amazing for Purdue. They earned their first number 1 ranking in school history. They finished the year ranked 3rd. They went 29-6 and had the best player in college basketball in Zach Edey. David Jenkins Jr. would transfer to Purdue and play a huge role in helping making this team great. Mason Gillis and Ethan Morton were 2 of the best glue guys in the Big Ten and possibly all of college basketball. All this allowed Purdue to win a Big Ten regular season title and a Big Ten tournament title. This year was pure dominance from Purdue. They were nearly unstoppable and were poised to go on a run. This was the year we could feel it. They earned a 1 seed and would play Farley Dickinson University. Now just picture this. Purdue University, the team known for having 7-foot giants, would play a team that didn't have a single guy over 6'7", and they lost. Purdue had every possible thing in their favor, and they lost. This one single loss had a lot of fans questioning if they would ever see Purdue get over the hump, me included. Every Purdue fan already had to deal with people making fun of us for multiple other embarrassing losses. And now, this one was added to the list. More ammo for people to use against us. This was one of the biggest upsets in college basketball history. It was like every statistic was saying that this was impossible. And the worst part of all of it was that we didn't know if we'd get another shot. This was the most talented team Purdue had ever had, and we didn't know if our best player was going to come back. David Jenkins Jr. was graduating, and Brandon Newman was transferring out. But when all hope seemed lost for Purdue, we got a small boost of hope in the offseason when the news broke that Zach Edey would be returning for his senior year. Along with him, we landed Lance Jones in the transfer portal, and 4-star Miles Colvin would be brought in. Camden Heide would have a great redshirt freshman year. Braden Smith would emerge as one of the best point guards in college basketball. Fletcher Loyer became an even more consistent three-point shooter, and Mason Gillis would do his regular Mason Gillis shenanigans. This team would lose just 5 games all year and didn't lose a single game in Mackey Arena. But this team was not focused on a Big Ten title of any kind or any ranking. They had one goal and one goal only: win a national title. And the run they went on in March would exorcise almost every demon that had tormented them through the past 10 years. Once they got to the NCAA tournament, they took care of business easily against 16-seed Grambling State. Obviously, for this game, you had people making jokes and saying Purdue would find a way to choke, but it didn't matter. Now on to 8-seed Utah State, which would be an absolute massacre, 106-67. So Purdue was now on their way to the Sweet 16. This is where they would face their first real challenge, 5-seed Gonzaga. This was the first game that actually had Purdue fans kinda nervous. Now, this was a chance to play in our first Elite 8 since Carson Edwards took us there in 2019, and we just barely missed out on a Final Four appearance. But despite all that outside noise, Purdue would handedly beat Gonzaga 80-68. So now back to the Elite 8. This time to face Tennessee for a chance once again to go to the Final Four. Now, the run up to this point had kind of felt unreal. I mean, seeing Purdue actually go this far with a chance to shut everyone up was one of the best experiences that I've ever had as a fan. And of course we had to face Tennessee. We beat them in 2019 thanks to Ryan Klein, and in football we upset them in the Music City Bowl thanks to Brock Thompson and his 2 bad knees. You really couldn't write a script better than this, as long as Purdue won. Now obviously you couldn't write a script better than this if they lost as well. I mean, that'd be pretty fitting. But they won 72-66 with a absolute poster of a dunk from Zach Edey. It was beautiful, picture perfect. Now Purdue would be playing in their first Final Four since 1980. And of course, they would play NC State, the 11 seed that had all of America behind them. DJ Burns had captured the hearts of basketball fans everywhere. Purdue already, this year, had lots of people wanting to see them fail. Now, I'm not going to say that they were hated, that's a little bit too strong of a word, but they were definitely disliked during this run in this season. If any other team had this Purdue team story, they would be given immense support. But since it's Purdue and because it's Zach Edey, they're going to be doubted and people are going to not like them. At this point, it's just kind of part of the Purdue brand, and it's part of being a Purdue fan, coach, or player. We are direct rivals to one of the biggest brands in college basketball. A large population of fans already want to see you fail on a regular basis. Now, you throw in the fact that those same fans are extremely upset that Purdue has actually managed to succeed on a national stage, and also throw in once again another thing, places like Barstool Sports are constantly talking down on Zach Edey. It's just a recipe for everyone to not like you. But it's at this point that I personally, and I think other people, kind of took a step back to realize they don't like us when we lose anyway. They make fun of us for losing anyway. So why not actually win something? People can be upset and make fun of us all they want, but this time it's out of spite and jealousy because they wish they were us. For possibly the first time ever, millions of people wish they were Purdue fans. So, for once, let's play spoiler to the best story in college basketball. A 63-50 win would send Purdue to its first national championship since 1969. And it was a thing of beauty to witness. Every player on this team had something to prove. They all had heard the jokes, they all had put in the work, and it finally paid off. Matt Painter had finally proven that he could win doing it his way with his guys. A team largely comprised of people from Indiana. And look at some of the assistant coaches on this staff. PJ Thompson and Sasha Stefanovic were both assistant coaches on this team. This win was for everyone who had ever been a player, coach, or fan of Purdue basketball. And what I'm about to say, Grandma, if you're watching this, I'm sorry, excuse my French. But this win was for all the shit that we had taken over the years as Purdue fans. For one moment, Purdue was on top. And yeah, I know we would go on to lose to UConn in the national championship, but I don't care. Unless you're a Purdue fan, you don't understand how much this moment meant to us. We could tell everyone who had ever trashed on Purdue and all those clowns at Barstool Sports to collectively suck our balls because we got to see our team in the national championship while they had to sit and watch. Finally, they felt how we felt every single time we got upset. They had that same helpless feeling where all they could do was watch. Now, I don't know what next year is going to look like for Purdue, and I don't know if Zach Edey's going to pan out in the NBA. But what I do know is that on April 6th, 2024, every Purdue fan could finally say that we didn't choke and we won when it mattered. All the detractors can keep on, their same stuff that they throw out there and whatever. And you can say, oh, you didn't really win when it mattered. You lost in the national championship. You can say all that, but it's not going to take away the experience that we got to have seeing our team play on the national stage in a national championship. I mean, we went to the Final Four and we won. You just can't take that away from us. I'm sorry. It doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter if you trash talk or whatever. It doesn't matter if you say, banners, FDU. It doesn't matter. We got to finally experience pure joy because we climbed the mountaintop. We didn't get upset by a lower seed. We did it with our guys. We did it with Matt Painter. This season was the payoff to all the years. All the years of pain and heartbreak that we had felt as Purdue fans. This was our year. And while we didn't get a national championship out of it, we still got a Final Four appearance. And a lot of y'all said that we wouldn't even make it to the Final Four. A lot of y'all said Purdue would never make it to a Final Four under Matt Painter. And you were wrong. And we were right. For once, we were right. I'm Limitless Polls. I'll see you guys next time.
It's right. Nigga, put it in the blender. Hell yeah, I'm Wingstop. Jump on the chicken tender. It's like the beef with energy and water like Kimber. Hey, turning, looking like dinner. It's like I got the bag, boy or girl. You can pick